Evening everyone. This is Moshe Frank with Frank News. Tonight we have a special guest, Rabbi Wolf from Chicago, who is well known for publishing his investigative journalism videos about the standard of Safras, writing of Mezuzahs and Tefillin and Sefer Torahs, the standard or the lack thereof of the people that do it in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you very much, Rabbi Wolf, for joining us. How are you tonight?
Baruch Hashem. Thank you for your time.
As far as I know or remember, I don't recall anyone ever doing investigative journalism, I guess it would be the right term, for kosher standards. Tell me, is that true?
Not that I know of, correct.
So in whether it's kashrus regarding kosher or in any department of Jewish laws or certification or standards, I do believe this is the first thorough investigative journalism piece that I know of. I could be wrong. So Rabbi Wolf, what do you do, number one? Like, how do you keep yourself busy when you're not doing your investigative journalism? What inspired you to take upon this project? I know it took a lot of time and a lot of money.
Okay,
To
so
the tune of $20,000?
This specific project was 7.5, but if you want to include both projects together, we're at a pretty large number at this point. So your question is a good question. How do I get into this and what do I do? So on a daily basis, I work with my father in an organization that helps senior citizens, Chaylim. We have a big Chaylim kitchen that we're in the middle of building right now. So we do a lot of different pu'ulais, and one of them we spend a lot of time on is Mezuzah and Tefillin. This project is not at all connected to the organization. I do it on my own time and my own dime. But I'm very involved in Mitzvah Mezuzah. I go to people's homes and I make sure that Mezuzahs are put up properly, and I help them get their Mezuzahs checked. So I'm very involved in Mitzvah Mezuzah, and since I've been a little kid, all my friends will tell you that when I was in Masifta, when I was in Zal, wherever I was always involved in Mitzvah Mezuzah. That's my blood. It's my thing. I'm into it.
Did someone tip you off? Where did the interest come from to investigate the Seifrim in Crown Heights?
You want to know the real story, where it all started?
Yes.
Okay, let me put my phone on vibrate because it's disturbing. Okay, I'm going to try to code the story so I don't hurt anybody. When I was a bacher...
That's funny coming from you, Rabbi Wolf.
Well, because that person changed, and it's a long time ago, this story. This story goes when I was 14 or 15 years old. I was a bacher in yeshiva, and I was putting up mezuzahs for people, just like every bacher on Friday, no difference, going with tzayim and so on. And at that time, the mezuzahs that was being used in that yeshiva that I was at was coming from Crown Heights. Was not a good, and they were very shvach. Actually, they were puzzle. And at the time, I didn't know that, and I basically took one of these mezuzahs to somebody who eventually had a check, and the guy started screaming at me. So then I took 3 mezuzahs from that yeshiva that they were giving out, and I brought it to a local cipher. And the cipher was not Lubavitcher, but very Yer Shemayim, a very nice guy. I came back to ask him to pay him for checking them. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, it's free." I said, "What do you mean it's free? It doesn't cost to check mezuzahs?" And he said to me, "No, these ones didn't cost. They took me a second. I looked at them and I said, 'Don't use it.'" And I said, "Can you put that on paper? Like, can you write that down for me?" And he did. He said, "These mezuzahs are puzzle. Do not use them." And then it was a big turmoil. Bacham were very involved. I can go through all the details, but that's when I realized, that's when it came to my awareness.
So that happened when you're in your teens and you put out your video later in your life. What was the gap about?
You need money. It's an expensive thing to do. Right, Bashet?
So in your first video...
One second, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I did try when I was a teen to speak to some of these Seifrim. I personally called some of them in Crown Heights And I was, very naive as a child, teen. I said, well, why are you guys doing this? It's terrible. And all I got was slack and screaming at me. And nobody, I even spoke to one of these cyphermen, 770. Actually, it was Moshe Klein. I spoke to him at 770 by Fabrengen. He was sitting right across from me. And I tried to speak to him about it. And he, in a very nice way, actually tried to speak to him about it. But it only started nice. And in the end, it ended up not being so nice. But whatever.
So I've spoken to a Rav, and I've spoken to one of the Seifrim, a few of the Seifrim that you have on your hit list, if I may say that.
No. Bad term.
What? One I spoke to earlier this evening, and I asked him, so what is your issue with Rabbi Wolf's approach of his investigative journalism? So he basically said, and this is similar to what the Rav said, that that's not how you go about it. There's a better, more peaceful way to go about it. And this cipher said, when people send him Hustle Mezuzah and Tefillin, he doesn't run around publishing YouTube videos saying how this other cipher, this whatever you call it, this stam that he got from another cipher, he doesn't publish YouTube videos every time he gets one that's possible, in contrast to your actions.
Yeah,
what do you
but
have to say about
that approach has been tried countless times, and obviously nothing has changed. I mean, and all these Rabbanim that say other approaches should happen, many of these Rabbanim know of the issue and haven't done anything about it. So if you want to say do a different approach that works, well, so do that approach.
Did you try to call these specific ciphers before? I mean, you said you spoke to a bunch of clients. Are you speaking to other ones? Spoken to other ones?
I called Moshe Klein when I was in Brunois. And a bunch of my friends who were with me in yeshiva can remember the conversation. I was on speaker, and a lot of them were around.
What about the other ones on the list?
Did I call any of the other ones on the list? No, but an acquaintance of mine has spoken to a Mayfitz years ago. Very good relative of mine, actually, immediate relative, and it fell on deaf ears. Other than him, no.
People are questioning, why is it that the same cipher seems to be on your good list every time? Could you just elaborate on that or comment on that?
Saying that he's on my good list almost sounds as if like I have lists of good people or bad people, and I'm trying to root for somebody. That's ridiculous. The fact that he did well twice is something you have to ask him. What is he doing different, or what is he working with his magiyim? What is his qualification guidelines? What type of rigor does he? What's his system? Does he pay them per mezuzah? I have no idea. You have to ask him. What is he doing? It's a question that really has to be posed to him, not to me. I wouldn't know the answer.
Right. I actually spoke to him after your first piece, and he said the sales were doing very well since then. So I'm just putting it out there.
I guess rightfully deserved, if you want to ask.
I know that they started some type of court bezdin thing with you, and it seems to have gone nowhere. But what are the general Rabbanim feelings in the Seifrim field? What was the reaction you're getting from people? Pro, negative, death threats? Like, what's the general reaction you're getting?
I get a lot of positive feedback. I get tons of texts, tons of phone calls, Rabbanim, Mashpiyim, Seifrim. I have a Seifrim who call me from everywhere, much more after the last video than this one. But call me from everywhere, thanking me. Oh my gosh, we know this problem. Come from Melbourne, Australia to everywhere. If I say places, I'm gonna give away who, but literally from everywhere. And everybody ends off the conversation with the same line: "Don't tell anybody that I called you." I don't understand. What's the big deal? Why can people? I don't understand why people are so scared to come up in public. I don't really get it.
Could you mentioned off camera the reaction you got from Rabbi Lando from Brain Rock, the famous Pesach. Could you please tell us the story about that?
After the last video, especially when it was going, they tried to bring me to the Torah with the whole thing. So I called, whatever, I was doing some research. So one of the things I did is I spoke to Rabbi Lando's son, a few of his sons actually, two I think, and they ended up bringing Rabbi Lando didn't have any internet to see the video, or didn't have doesn't have WhatsApp. So they brought him an iPad or some device where he could see the first video because he was around then. He watched the whole video. He looked at different stuff, and he was very strong about it. He was thankful, and he said that this is a big problem that he knows about for a long time, and many Rabbanim know about for a long time. And he definitely wasn't upset at me for making it. That's to say the least. And to actually add, there was Rabbanim in many Kehilas, Lubavitch Kehilas, all over that have called me and thanked me.
What about the Badat Sakran Heights, without saying names? Have you gotten support from them?
I'm going to decline from answering about any specific Rav. It's very simple. I can't say.
So I said Badat, it's general.
Not so general, but that's his two Rabbanim at this
point. Well, I'm assuming you know.
And one of them is my uncle.
Which one's that?
Rabbi Oz was my uncle.
So have you spoken to him about this?
Again, I'm going to decline, but.
I hear.
He definitely knows of this issue for many years. He acknowledges that this issue exists for many years. I mean, way before I've been around.
I don't know anything about Safras or Stam. Your standards that you hold to these seifrim that you're talking about in your videos, is it b'diavad kosher? Is it l'chatchila? Like, what degree of level are we talking about? Did you find like achrayim and every guy who came up with his own hiddur about Safras, or is this you have a pretty basic low kosher standards when you're talking about these seifrim?
Okay, I'm not exactly sure your question, but I think I understood it. There's kosher and there's pasa when it comes to if it's allowed, if it's not allowed.
My question is in kosher.
I understand. Let me. I think I understand the question.
There's chol of akum, there's treif, there's chol of yisrael.
When it comes to mezuzahs, when there's an issue in a mezuzah, let's say a vav that looks like a zayin. Let's say there's a beis chaf that looks like a beis. Let's give whatever example it is. When there's an issue in a mezuzah, there might be different opinions of what to do with this issue. Whether it's you can fix it, whether it's you can't fix it, whether it's a shalos tinnik, shalos chacham. There's maybe different opinions about what you can do with this specific issue, with the specific problem that's now found in a mezuzah. But to just keep it as is and ignore the issue and just move on as if it doesn't exist is not really accepted. You can't do that. And now, I would ask the question, are you suggesting that some of these seifrim saw the psul, knew of a psak that says the psul is kosher and shouldn't be even fixed with a shail of a tinnik, and therefore didn't touch it? Or is it more likely that they just don't know how to look and they just missed it?
So two things. Next, shailas tinnik means that you have to ask a random child of what he thinks the letter is, right?
Not just a random child. There's a way to ask a shailas tinnik. It has to be asked properly. Shailas tinnik means you have to go to a child that doesn't know how to read yet, but knows the aleph base. So otherwise, if he knows how to read, then it gives it away. He knows the aleph base, doesn't know how to read, and you ask the child to identify the letter. There's a way, the proper way, the best way of doing a shailas tinnik is actually to take the child through different, let's say the letter of question is a vav. So you'll go through other vavs in this same mezuzah to give the child a little, so he can get used to the script of this mezuzah, and then take him to the questionable vavs. So show him 5 other vavs and chafs and zayins.
Is it possible that kids as adults have different levels of IQ? That the shailas tinnik of one tinnik will be a different brain power than the other? It's possible that your tinnik said wrong, this cipher said no. I'm just wondering regarding the investigation.
That is a possibility. But again, if a tinnik was asked and the tinnik said that it's a vav, then you have to fix it. You should make it look like a vav. You shouldn't just leave it as is and move on. That's not the right
You're saying
way.
even if it's subject to someone's opinion, it has to be fixed regardless to make sure that there
Correct.
shouldn't be a question.
Correct. Once the child says, yes, it is a vav, now it has to be fixed and make it look like a vav. Child's tinnik doesn't mean ask a child's tinnik and that's it, done.
So you're saying Charlotte's tinnik doesn't mean that if he says it's a chaf, then the thing is possible and you can't fix it.
If the child says the wrong letter, if it's supposed to be a base and the child says a chaf, it's kaput. You can't use it.
It's unfixable. So there's in Safras, certain things are fixable and certain things are not. Correct?
Yes, but nothing should be left as is.
Right. So if there's a leak in the car, the mechanic tells you there's a leak and you should fix it right away. Not that just there is a leak, have a great day.
Yeah, but you cannot drive this car with that leak.
Correct.
You're gonna die. The car is gonna go and it's gonna flip over. You can't drive this car with that. It has to be fixed.
What was your method of deciding who to investigate and who not to investigate? I see that they're different from your first investigation.
I tried to investigate as much as I can. In this specific video, I tried to do as many ciphers as possible. My first investigation, I pretty much did anybody who had a store. I didn't do individuals. I did anybody who has a establishment. In this investigation, I tried to do, I first did all the establishments that I could recall. And then I did some personal people. I stopped after Rabbi Barnett. And it was just time to release it. I mean, there wasn't that many more personal people to send to anyways.
What was the reaction from actual ciphering that you investigated? What was the feedback from them? I know you mentioned you've gotten some feedback. What was it like?
I had one phone call with one cipher, and I've had feedback with third parties from other ciphers. But direct feedback I only had with one. It was very, very positive, actually. I give this person a lot of credit. Which
cipher was that?
I'm going to name him because it's worth it, because he really gets credit. Rabbi Ladayev, he called me, and I can, he said to me, I have Kabbalah from Banishmer Stam. I keep up my Kabbalah. I chazer. I know my stuff. And I'm a human being, and I can miss two mistakes out of 8. He said also the mezuzahs came to him during Corona. Things were crazy, but he didn't use it as an excuse. He just said, he said to me that it bothered him that he missed one of those songs. He says it bothered him that he missed it. But he says, again, at the same time, I'm a human. And very much respect that. And I actually, once we're on this topic, I'm going to mention, in my video, I did not write failed or passed by any cipher. The reason is because I kept the videos very scientific and very factual without any of my opinions. And this interview, a lot of it is my opinion, what I'm saying over here. Some of it is not. But I'm using leeway to give my opinion. So in this, now that I have the ability, I'm going to say that some of the stores did extremely poorly and really need to chazer their safras before they continue safras. And they have to work on themselves, make a lot of cheshbon nefesh. Some of them did decent. They were fine. They missed 1, missed 2. They're human beings. That's one of the reasons why we check very often. As Chabad, the Rebbe encourages to check every year, and the Shulchan Aruch says twice in 7 years. But it's very important because a cipher can miss one. He's human. It's one of the reasons why we check. Many reasons. That's one. And then there was one person who did extremely well and got everything. But I believe that if I made enough tests, it's possible that one of the other 4, like Barnett, Ladayev, Moskowitz, Oraita, I believe they might totally pass, and it's very possible that Raskin will miss one. It's very possible. It could be he was just lucky and he got all of them. I believe that those 5 are good cipher, and everybody can miss something. I mean, they're not perfect.
Right, because I was speaking to Sergeant and said, well, I've dealt with Raskin stuff and I found mistakes also and they're puzzle also. So it's not, obviously numbers say something, especially if this is your second Investigation, and the same numbers are coming up, right? Their numbers are very similar to your first, no?
They are very similar, actually. They happen to show a lot of correlation. If you look at, it's very interesting, talking at a scientific level, if you look at the interesting how Mr. Lovin did very similar to what he's done last time in the same ballpark. Mayfitz and Moshe Klein did very similar to the ballpark they've done last time. All right, they did very similar to his ballpark last time, actually better. He went up, did even better than last time. Give him credit for that. And Raskin stayed the same as last time as a topic. All in all, it was very similar.
But I mean, if you, as a journalist now working through COVID-19, for medical vaccines or medicine to be a CDC or FDA approved, I'm not sure which one it is, they have to go through serious, intense, not 6 mezuzahs, 5 mezuzahs. It's blind tests with thousands and thousands and thousands. Although 2 tests with similar results probably does say a lot mathematically, but you really have to really get a accurate 100 million % reading, you probably have to do more tests. But I think you could start from somewhere, and your approach definitely started from somewhere. And the fact that you're seeing similar scoring in both videos, I find very interesting and intriguing. People are asking, why is it that you picked Crown Heights Cypher? The world is very large. And why'd you pick them as your guinea pigs?
Okay, guinea pigs is not a good way of saying it. I don't think I'm picking on anybody. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as I'm trying to help people. But either way,
I mean, after you did Crown Heights, the first one, perhaps you should have said, okay, now next time to spend my time and money on a new community to strengthen their observances and awareness in Cyprus.
Okay, so you really asked 2 questions. You asked why I focus on Crown Heights, and then why I did a second time on Crown Heights. So you really asked 2 questions over there. So your first question of why I did Crown Heights in the first place is I'm Lubavitcher, and Crown Heights is these mezuzahs go out to Lubavitchers all over the world, and not just Lubavitchers. They go to many of the Balabatim and many of the Karabim of Lubavitchers all over the world. Shluchim come in for the kinnis or other things, and they bring mezuzahs to Crown Heights when they don't have Sofrim in their cities. So Crown Heights gets a lot more traffic, gets a lot more than just Crown Heights itself, and it has a much bigger impact on the world literally globally than just the whole world itself. So that is a reason, number 1, why to focus on Crown Heights. Another reason is Shmoy Hailach Befanov. Unfortunately, the name out there is, if you bring, the name of the Crown Heights Sufferim don't have a very good name in the Cyprus world. Some of the Crown Heights Sufferim don't have a very good name in the Cyprus world. And if you go to certain communities, go to Borough Park, Williamsburg, Lakewood, and you show certain psulim to the Sufrim in Lakewood or Borough Park, Williamsburg, they're going to laugh and they'll say, yeah, bring it to Crown Heights over there. They'll think it's kosher. Those guys. So, and I've heard that from Sufrim and other communities. So when I heard that there's this reputation out there about Crown Heights, I said, I got to dig in much more, especially that I experienced it myself firsthand as a teenager.
So why round 2 Crown Heights also?
All right, that was the second question. So I felt that the second video, first of all, I don't intend necessarily to start other communities. I intend to focus on Crown Heights. I feel that the second video brought a lot out that the first one didn't. I think some people thought after the first video that, these are the inexpensive mezuzahs, but if I have an expensive $150 mezuzah, I have nothing to worry about. And this video proves that that's not the case. If the person doesn't know how to check, then your problem exists no matter what price mezuzah, because every mezuzah has to be checked before it's sold. So I feel that this video wasn't just like a repeat of last one. It was actually a much deeper, more consequences than the first one had.
Right, but for testing, it would probably show more accuracy on your numbers. But in terms of covering different communities, it was not that effective. It was not effective. Tell us about your campaigning in Chicago with conservative temples of ensuring that they have kosher mezuzahs.
All right, it's an interesting topic. So a couple years ago, I started a campaign to try to get the local gift shops at some of these temples. A lot of temples have or synagogues have a gift shop where they sell all sorts of tchotchkes, and also they sell mezuzahs and tefillin. And I tried to reach out to the temple gift shops to try to educate them about kosher mezuzahs and tefillin. I met with I'm going to give you a background. These gift shops are ran by the sisterhoods. It's usually how it's ran. It's volunteers and usually, retired people, older and retired. So I went to meet with some of them, Temple Beth El, Temple Beth Shalom, Temple Beth Hillel, are just some. And when I met with the gift shop owner, the gift shop, and I can't call them owners because the temple owns it, but it's more like the people who run it, the specific individuals from the sisterhood. I started talking to them about their mezuzahs, and I said, "Can I see the ones that you sell?" And they were very proud to show me. And when I showed them how those mezuzahs were puzzled, and they weren't good, they were shocked. What do you mean? We only sell kosher mezuzahs. Some temples have, by the way, I don't know if you know this, some temples will give you two options. They'll say, would you like a kosher mezuzah or would you like a photocopy? So they said, we don't even do that. We only give one option. We give the kosher option. And they were shocked to see that their kosher option wasn't really kosher. And then after a long discussion and encouraging them to get better mezuzahs, I found a sponsor to help subsidize it for them to make it a better price. And then I tried to get to the bottom of it. Where are they getting them from? And I was shocked to find out that they told me that they were buying their mezuzahs from a fellow in Borough Park. His name was Moshe Klein, and not to get confused with the Crown Heights Moshe Klein, it's a different person. His company is called KB Judaica, Klein Brothers Judaica. And he was selling them puzzle mezuzahs, and he advertised it. I have his literature, I have copies of it, where he says that it's 100% kosher, which is obviously false. I met with him in Borough Park. His office is in that big Keter building, I think it's like a white big building. It has like a
Is he affiliated with Keter?
I don't think so. I think he just rents an office there. A big Keter building. He has an office on the side. You can see this little sign on the door, a little white piece of paper that says KB Judaica. And I went to talk to him, a short guy, and with a little white beard. And I said to him, "How are you doing this? How do you have this Achrayas to ship literally, thousands of dollars worth of mezuzahs that are puzzled to Reform, conservative, Reconstructionists, and all sorts of Jews around the world?" His response to me was in Yiddish, and he said to me, "They seinen b'di'evedik Yidden, they tarnished open kikushlim mezuzahs." To translate, he says they're b'di'evet Jews, and they're not allowed to have kosher mezuzahs. So he felt like he was doing a mitzvah by making sure they don't have kosher. I made an awareness.
And what was your results of you working on these temple gift shops?
A lot of education. I helped. I put up a packet together. I wrote a guide for the gift shop women, so they know how to source mezuzahs. They should know what's considered a decent price. We should know what is a red flag. I spoke to the head of the board of the gift shop. They have like some type of group with all the ladies who run gift shops, so they can buy in quantities or they can refer to each other and they help each other out for different, in conservative gift shops. They actually have conventions as well. So I spoke to the head of the board of there. She's from Florida. Her name's Etta. Gave her an educational lesson about mezuzahs, which was very helpful for her, and she was very thankful. And she put out a notice to all the conservative gift shops about this situation. I spent a lot of time and effort educating them about Safos and about mezuzahs.
Do you think there's any solution to this widespread issue that you're bringing up? Could there be like a hechsher, like, oh, you okay for Safras? Would that be possible?
No, it's not possible. Mezuzah, every mezuzah has to be checked individually. Not like a
or is there wear and tear? So you could have a hechsher in it theoretically now in 6 months due to the weather outside or the humidity.
No. So a mezuzah, that's not the reason why. A bag of chips, you check the ingredients, you check the factory, you check everything. They all are the same. They go down the conveyor belt and it's done. Mezuzah, every single one is handwritten. Every single one has to be checked in order for it to be, every single mezuzah has to be checked in order for you to put your hechsher on it. So like Rabbi Landau in Eretz Yisrael has a hechsher on mezuzahs. The only way to do that is he has a group of people who check every single one of his mezuzahs that come out of his muffin, and then they are like sealed in a packet and with a stempel on it, And that's how he can give a hefsher, because every single mezuzah with his hefsher is individually checked. So if you want to put a hefsher on it, it's not, you can't just put an okay in the store and have a mashkiach. You have to actually check every single mezuzah, and that's physically impossible.
Well, if the cipher will be busy writing, and you'll have separate certification companies that just certify and check, then perhaps it can be an option.
There are Seifrim who specialize in Bidikas, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, but it's a separate Kabbalah for checking and for writing. You can have a Seifrim who knows how to write, but he's not certified to check. It's like saying I have a doctor who's certified to do heart surgery, but he's not allowed to be, he's not an anesthesiologist. There are different fields in Safras. And Kabbalah for a Seifrim has to be Kabbalah for checking or Kabbalah for writing, or both, depending on what it does.
I didn't watch your video thoroughly. Did any of the people tell you things are puzzle and buy new mezuzah, or you didn't get that response from anyone?
No, nobody tried to push me to buy new mezuzahs. I requested to buy 3 new mezuzahs from most of the stores that sell, from all the stores that sell.
So, no, because I know that Rabbi Zirkin, Olav Shalom, who's a legendary cipher, who I think checked the Rebbe's film, Moshe Feinstein's film, told his Talmidim not to sell the safras to the people who they say they're puzzle. But based on your small research and study, none of your ciphering, to their credit, try to sell you and say it's puzzle, correct?
Right. None of them push me to say, "Oh, now I'll buy a new one." I've never, we haven't felt that in this investigation. We have asked to buy new ones from some of them, but as you said, Rabbi Zirkin's Talmidim, even if you ask them to buy a new one, once they told you that something is puzzled, they won't sell it, even if you're the one who asked.
Do you think you got enough, you gave them enough mezuzahs to really give a real judgment call of their qualifications and their expertise?
Yeah, I think 8 is a nice number. And actually, the reason why I didn't do too many more, even 8 I thought was pushing it, is because if you sent a cipher 20 mezuzahs and all 20 of them are puzzle, just giving an example, the guy's gonna know something is crazy. It's gonna give it away. I had to put 8 puzzle and 6 kosher and hope that the balance will not give away the project.
Did you see any results?
Although more than one store, some of the good ones who have caught a lot, more than one called the shipper, the guy who shipped it to them in the middle, and said, "Something's wrong here. It's too many puzzle. What's going on? Where are these mezuzahs from?" And we felt like, they're suspicious. So if you're really checking well and you're checking, it doesn't happen every day that you have 8 basilim in a pack. It's like it's crazy. I have and 8 different basilim. It's just so weird.
Did you see any positive results from your first investigation that inspired you to do the second, or you didn't see enough results, therefore you put out a second one?
No, I think both. I think I saw a lot of positive results, which means a lot of public awareness, which is the only thing I am working on. I think
what specifically have you seen change from your first video?
A lot of shluchim have called me and told me that now they're more careful where they buy. A lot of people tell me now they're more careful. A lot of people tell me that, wow, we didn't realize that Safras is like this. We thought if the guy says it's safe, we could just buy it. We didn't realize. So there was a lot of awareness, a lot of public awareness, and that's what I felt was very important. That's what I was aiming for. And this video is a different type of awareness. It was more awareness about Bidika than it was about Mechira or about Kniya. But they do interlock each other.
I know you have a passion for mezuzahs. Could we see you come up with some other kosher investigations, maybe like kashrus, which kashrus really show up to the factory, which ones don't show up to the factory? Do they care or they don't care? Could we see that coming as part of your investigative journalism relating to the frum Jewish kashrus world?
My answer is I'm going to be making more videos in Mirza Hashem with Eibishter's help and with the Rebbe's brachos. Before each video, I do a lot of cheshbon nefesh to know if this is the right thing and if this is the time for it, if this is what should be done. there's a lot of thought that goes into it. But Mezuzah Hashem, there will be more. I have already a couple planned, some of them that are well into the planning.
Is this Safras related or other?
All Safras related.
Do you have I mean, you've done your video, your second video. Are people tipping you off saying, by the way, I work in this industry, you should really check this out, it really needs help?
People call me all the time. I've had people call me, tell me you do the kashrus industry. A guy told me you should do hadassim. Hadassim are terrible. Another guy called me tzitzis. Tzitzis is mamish, you have to do tzitzis. I get calls like this all the time. It's actually pretty amusing.
So what are the hot ones? Tzitzis, hadassim, kashrus, anything else we should know about?
No, hadassim, I'll tell you the things we've done. Hadassim, people have told me, oh, there's hadassim shoit, there's fake hadassim. They look like hadassim, they're not real hadassim. That guy told me tzitzis in Eretz Yisrael, they have prisoners who are tying tzitzis, and some of those prisoners are not Yidden. Another guy called me kashrus. I mean, I get these calls all the time. I mean, I've never investigated any of them, but it's amusing that people think that I'm going to become this investigator guy. No, I'm going to focus on Safras because that's where I have a passion.
What about cloth? You going to do investigation on cloth?
Interesting. I haven't thought about
it. Does it have to be done by Yid? What's the rules?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about cloth. I haven't researched it.
Gotcha. So I guess you can't really tell us your future projects because then your what's the word? Your candidates will be on guard. So you have.
I'm going to compromise the project. I'm going to say this, not all of my projects will be in investigative form. Some of my projects will be informative to the public of things that they should be aware in their home or with their tefillin or with their mezuzah or things that the public can know. Not all of them will be naming stores. Some of them will be more informative. My goal is to help the public when it comes to mezuzah and tefillin in all aspects of it.
Per letter, are Megillas and Sefer Torah more expensive than tefillin and mezuzahs, or no?
I don't know the answer.
What?
I don't know the answer. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer. There's so many variables.
So, because I have a theory.
Yeah.
That if people don't see see what they're using or buying, they don't care as much. So I'm assuming tefillin and mezuzahs. I'm in the art world, so I know that the Sefer Torah and Megillas go for a lot of money. No one ever came to me and said, "Oh, do you want to buy a pair of tefillin or mezuzah by this and this and this cipher?" I could be right. I just never had that experience. But I know Sefer Torah, everyone goes to Leah and everyone oohs and ahs when doing Sefer Torah, telling them how beautiful the tzad is, or Megillah, in that case, is also a lot of them have art in it. Do you find that to be the case?
I find it, I don't know about all that, but I know what I do find to be the case, which is interesting. A lot of people who focus on their cases and they don't focus on the mezuzah itself that's inside the case, and they'll spend $200 on this beautiful silver case, and then they're going to ask me for this very, very small mezuzah that they can really, can we fit something in here? Is it possible? I'm like, you spend $200 on your case. Let's get something nice for you. Yes, that is a common issue. But the other stuff you're asking about comparing the Megillas, I don't know.
But it's along the same lines what you're saying.
Yeah, some people do focus on the chitzainus part, and they want to have
some
a nice
people
case.
Or a lot of people, or most people.
In Chabad, not so much, but in the Welt, much more.
Right. So I want to point out, going back to why you're only investing in the Kranai Sefer. The Kranai Sefer, some of them are kosher. The ones that you found in other communities are total puzzle, and you told me the 3 different sources of people selling puzzle mezuzahs to these conservative temples. I don't think any of them were Chabad. Is that correct?
I don't know. One of them, I don't know what he considers himself. But there are many people who are selling, mezuzahs. It's a whole different level. Those are people selling mezuzahs at $13 to $17 a piece to conservative and reform temples. That's a whole different ball game. It's very different than what we're dealing with here. Although it happens to be one of these big meicher who sells thousands of mezuzahs to reform and conservative temples, whose last name is Scheinberger. He lives in Ramot in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know what he considers himself. I don't know what he considers himself. I don't know anything about that, but he literally goes around and peddles mezuzahs from temple to gift shop. He also,
I think Chabad people feel a little too guilty to we grew up with Messiah Mezuzah to be mass producing and selling mezuzahs to
this
fried
guy
people. I
does.
think.
This specific fellow, this Scheinberger, he does. He mass produces false mezuzahs and he literally sells them everywhere. He puts a
Does he
fake.
lechatchila apostle or the ones that are apostle? He just sells it to them.
Oh, come on. These are nothing. These are scribbled by kids in kindergarten. I don't know what they're done by. This is like
Just wondering.
this is arts and crafts projects in Israel.
And it's and these people don't look at it. These people in the gift shop don't open up and look at it, or it looks somewhat normal.
They
If it was
don't.
kindergarten, I'm sure they wouldn't buy it. They're not like totally.
You know what I mean by kindergarten, but it looks well. It has some letters, some Hebrew letters. Sometimes you can try to make out what those
Is it
letters
on
are.
cloth?
Sometimes not. He puts a stamp like a Torah. It's like a Torah scroll, and it says move. It says what does it say? Bodek or something like that. It's checked by the Vad of checking of Stam. He makes up something and makes a nice Torah scroll on it, and they think it's a hefsher. And he literally scams them.
Got you. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and your passion for
I want to
mezuzahs.
add. Did I say yet about the force? I mean, I want to say it again, even though I said it. I think I'm going to say it again. That some of in my video, I did not say who passed and who failed, but I will say here that stores who just missed one or two psulim are Yerush. I think, my opinion, again, I think that they're Yerushalayim. I think they did pretty well. I think they're human beings. I don't think that cancels them out as reliable sources. And I think it's very possible that if I would have done this test again, and many times, it's very possible that the guy who got 8 will miss 1. He's also human, not a machine. So, yes, there are some in this video who are incapable and incompetent and really should do some cheshbon hanefesh. But others in this video, even who did not get a full 100%, I believe did a decent job and should be applauded for their work.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rabbi Wolf. We are looking forward to hearing your next investigative journalism piece. We do prefer it's not Safras because we get the point. But if you could switch to a different topic, and perhaps there's many mitzvahs of the Rebbe besides Mezuzah Mezuzah, and you should also consider checking the others. I would say any self-regulated industry lends itself to fraud, and therefore it's very important to have third-party companies or organizations that check people. When you're in Safras, there's no third parties, so it lends itself, to these type of things.
I'm gonna end up with one more thing, and I think I told you on the phone. I'll tell it to you again. I don't think that even the stores who did bad, even the stores that passed, that really didn't pass and did terrible. I think that even there, I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're evil people. I think that sheichad yaver ini chachamim bisalat divrei tzadikim, that money blinds even a tzaddik, and because it's become into a business and a factory where they're just doing this in mass production and they're not. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're evil people. I think that they just.
Now, when you see, what about the Chasher Rabbanim you spoke to, who didn't want to be use their name publicly for something that they should be proud and happy and should feel the achrayus to put their name on saying that? Are they bad, evil people, or you're going to cut them more slack than they cipher?
I cut them a lot of slack because they get a lot of slack, and they have.
Why don't they get slack for not standing up and supporting your cause? The only person that supported your cause was the legendary Rabbi Landa. Maybe that's why he's so legendary, because he doesn't care
even
what people say.
Even Rabbi Landa was the chashoi at the time, and now that he passed away, I didn't mind saying it. But
he said the same thing.
What?
So he was also afraid to release his name about it.
I don't know about afraid. I don't use the word afraid. He didn't want at the time. And it was after the fact that he was consulted. He wasn't consulted before the fact. And it was after the fact that he heard about it that he said, "Oh, that was a good thing." But it wasn't before the fact. So I have to make that clear. Some Rabbanim were.
You're saying not a single Rav wants to go on record approving your investigative journalism for Pasalo Mezuzahs, correct?
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't really find Rabbanim who came out and said, "That's a terrible thing you just did." That you don't find that either. And you can know for yourself that if you ask many Rabbanim, the Chashai, they'll tell you, yes, we acknowledge there is an issue. Yes, there's an issue. Yes.
Were you surprised that no one came out publicly to support you or back you?
No.
Since you're doing such holy work?
No, I'm not surprised.
Why not?
It's because they would have done something about it themselves many years. It's a very hard thing to do. It's you're putting your neck out to the public. That's one of those my Messias Nefesh that I'm doing this. If you're literally putting yourself out there for people to try to attack you and punch you, and who wants this? You know, I'm a younger man. I have a mishpacha with kinder Baruch Hashem. Why do I need this? And that's the approach that most people will say. What do I need this for? Fine. Let someone else worry about it. But I'm not going to have that approach. My approach is that this has to be taken care of, and we're going to continue to give awareness to people about the issues in STEM. And I start off, there's issues in a lot of aspects of STEM. I just started with Mezuzahs, but there's a long way to go.
Okay. So, say from out there, if you get an order of 20 pairs of tefillin, you did not strike gold. Just know that very shortly you're going to be exposed. So be very careful with that order.
All right.
Now we just got right now we just got the Mezuzahs. So
Dag is in.
Like,
Right.
it's if I may reference to when they had this big get busting people, and it was in New Jersey.
Right.
And one day they got a big fish. The guy offered them $200,000-$300,000 to get him a get. And the end of the story, the end, they all ended up in jail, which was the FBI informant. So on that note, Rabbi Wolf, thank you very much for your time. I do respect you for your putting your neck out for an important topic. I don't know if I would do it myself. I'm not sure if I don't care about Safras enough, or I care about people's parnasa. I don't know. But
I don't take that as a consideration. The parnasa things, I don't even understand it. Why should we care about some people's parnasa that are doing?
So the question is, if you would have sent these
selling bad
people
bad safras, why don't we want people that are receiving those goods, people like not worried about it?
Well, the question is, if you would have sent these report privately. So I'm not sure about what's the exact correct approach. Definitely doing something is the correct approach, as opposed to not doing anything. I don't know if, I know in the past, maybe 10 years ago, I heard about some guy who would run around to restaurants as a undercover investigator for himself, and then would write up reports of all the issues, and then would send it to the hashkafa or the restaurant owner. Have you, as a step one, have you considered doing that before making a public YouTube video to give them a chance?
Are you suggesting that the stores didn't know what was going on, what they're selling, and therefore they needed someone to bring it up to their attention? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know the exact thing, but the point is that the step one wasn't to make it public. Step one was to send them, the owners or the hashkafa, individually. You gave
an example. You gave an example which wasn't good. The example you gave was that someone went to a restaurant and the guy went and brought up to the attention of the owners of things that maybe the owner didn't know. And the owner was shocked and he said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on in my restaurant?" Are you suggesting that these sites don't know what they're selling in the first video, or they don't know that they're lousy checkers? I'm asking, what am I bringing to their attention that they don't know?
So
I don't understand.
Okay, so the store owner, the stores don't do check, or they do checking. The stores, the owners themselves, the store owners don't do the checking. They have other people doing it, as well as these independent site firms. A lot of them also have other people doing their checking,
Yeah.
or giving them
check for themselves.
What?
the independent site from check themselves. They don't rely on others.
I know, like Oraita, I know has
I
other
like the
people.
independent site where he has a store. But let's say
Okay.
Flatman, Ladayev, Moskowitz, Barnett, these guys check for themselves.
Okay, I know Michelin, I don't think they check themselves. They have
I don't know the answer for Michelin, but yes, Michelin, Hasofer, and Hamefitz, and Oraita and Raskin, I'm sure hire people as well. I don't know if they themselves do also, but they definitely hire people.
But you also give them a warning. For say, by the way, here's a report, and you could say another month from now, I'm going to go do another report and go public if I don't see change. Perhaps that would have been a more sensitive approach to their parnasa.
To be honest, I was a little worried about giving them a warning. They always worry that they're going to try to tie me up in a Torah and not allow me to release the video and just stay, or drag their feet in the Torah, not for the sake of the Torah, but just for the sake of trying to stall me.
Right, but even out of threat, just put it in. Here's a report, and a month later, do it again, and see if they changed or they didn't care.
So I did that. Look, I did a video last year and a half, or whatever it was, a year and so ago. I did another one. So I did that. I gave them a first video. I gave them a first warning. So I did that.
Yeah, but your first warning probably, and I mean, if Ross can tell me his sales were up, probably means it affected other people where sales were down.
Well,
so I don't know.
Let me ask you, if you really believe that they're sincere people, that if I can meet with them and talk to them and just tell them what's going on in their stores, they would just say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Let me change." Then why didn't they change after the first video?
Right.
I think that question is almost obsolete at this point. If they haven't changed after video number one, why would a conversation with them have done anything?
So hindsight, you are correct, but I'm saying a more sensitive approach would be first sending the report and then doing a video. Would you agree?
In hindsight, we can have a lot of discussions, but we're after the fact at this point. And after the fact that proven to be right, that the discussion with them wouldn't have caused any change. That even the video didn't cause change, and we had to make a second one. So I think the hindsight conversation is almost dumb. What's the point?
I mean, the question is, do you scream at the kid the first time, or you first try to do it with Ava, and then, because sometimes you scream the first time. In this case, the video could just totally make them up in arms and not make change because they're in self-denial.
We're dealing with pikuach nefesh. We're dealing with mezuzahs that protect us. So you're saying is because I did. So what you're suggesting right now is that because I made a first video and I proved to the whole world that they were doing a bad job, so now I'm not gonna change, and now I'm gonna continue to do a bad job because I'm mad at Wolf for making a video. Hey, seriously, that's the suggestion? I mean, I think.
I'm saying that it didn't come. It wasn't approached with the most sensitivity to other people's parnasa, and to your
Are they sensitive?
And to your point, your video didn't help anyway, right?
Well, my video was not to try to get the stores to change. My video was to try to get public awareness because I strongly believe consumers make demands, and demand will replicate or will mirror the consumers. So if consumers are demanding for higher standard, if consumers are demanding for better checking, then that will come. Just a conversation with the stores, or I don't believe that itself is going to make it. I believe in consumers. We're a capitalistic society. It's market. It's the market. It's what people demand. It's what the market
Demand creates the supply.
Right. So I'm trying to help make the demand for good stuff.
So let me take another question. If these Seifrim was your father, brother, and son, would you go with the same approach, or you take a different approach?
I would have the same approach, and I would be extremely embarrassed. And Baruch Hashem, I'm not in such a situation. And Baruch Hashem, my immediate family are Yirei Shemayim, and they don't, and they will never do such a terrible, terrible act, putting thousands of Yidden at risk and not having kosher mezuzahs.
But all right, but these Seifrim have fathers, sons, and brothers. So in that case, do you think you would take the same approach, or would be a little more sensitive? Or you would talk to them, say, hey guys, bro, you're my brother, you're my son, you're my father, but you're suffer to that end. Or you go straight to the cavaliering Rabbi Wolf video.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Here's my question for you. Every single person who's today sitting in jail, who is a criminal, all those people, should we not arrest them? Should we not prosecute them? When you do a criminal act, when you do something that affects other people or affects any type of bad act, you have to realize that you are putting your family at the public eye. You are the one hurting your family. You are the one who is causing your family to be hurt. And when you do that, when there was someone in Crown Heights who was arrested for being a drug dealer, should they not have arrested him? No, they should. And it is his fault. He should have realized that by being a drug dealer, you are hurting your own family. Nobody else, not the guy who's arresting you, not the guy who's publicizing you. You the one who are doing this act knowingly are hurting your family. Not me. I'm not the one to blame.
I'm not blaming you, but you didn't answer my question, but I think we all know you were treating your family a little different.
Same question, go to a police officer. Will a police officer, if he's arresting his family member, have a different approach? Does that mean he shouldn't be arresting anybody?
I'm sure he would, yeah.
Okay, does that mean he shouldn't be arresting anybody?
And anybody, I assume
does that mean he should? Does that mean anytime he sees somebody doing a bad act? Today the thing is looting. So anytime he sees a looter, he should pat him on the back and say, "Hey, sweetheart, don't do that. Looting is not nice."
If it's his father, he's not going to arrest him, right? He'll say, just bro, leave, obviously.
But
anyway,
I think I've answered your question to say that if it's hurting people, hurting their children, hurting their family, hurting Parnassa, the only one to blame is them.
You see, on one hand, I personally, and I'm just interviewing you, personally, I respect your investigative journalism. On the other hand, if it is, other Yidden, there's definitely a certain sensitivity people should show, people who have, and however, it would probably cost you even more money. So it's another round of another $10,000 for your video production, your time and your energy. So I guess it's definitely easier just to go straight to the video, right?
It's not about easier. I don't do anything else. Just do it easy. This was not an easy project. It takes a lot of paths. I don't look for easy routes. I look for what's going to be the most productive route. And in my opinion, this was going to be the most productive route. And we can differ in opinions, but I definitely felt that way. And after the last video, actually, I'll tell you a story. After the last video, I got a letter from one of the children of one of the Seifrim. I'm not going to say who. And it was a girl or a woman. She wrote a whole letter, very, very saddened that I really hurt her family. And I answered her in a very short, but the same Nakuda that I told you. I said, I really feel bad for you. I feel bad that you are hurt. The same way I feel bad for every child that his father did a criminal act and that child and that father is incarcerated. I feel bad for that child. He didn't do anything wrong. It's his father's fault. But at the same time, I'm not the one to blame. Your father, the one who did this act, is the one to blame. He should have thought about it.
Rabbi, I'm not blaming you on anything. The fact that you're bringing awareness to people, to thousands of people, is very commendable. The question is approach. That's it.
Okay. I think this was the most, in my opinion, this approach would bring the most results, and that's all that mattered.
All right, but you also see that your Seifrim are learning a lesson. In the second investigation, you're getting the same results.
I never intended to try to teach them lessons. I think they know what they're doing, and it's up to them to change. I intended to make it consumer awareness. That's my goal.
So we're going to have to do a third investigation to really see if they're changing in their ways according to your approach.
Okay. Again, my goal is not to see if they're going to change their ways. My goal is to make consumer awareness. People should know what is going on, and people should demand for better work. People should demand that the Seifrim should hold to the standards of halacha.
Yeah, it's like I said, any self-regulated business where there's very little transparency and education. And we're seeing now with COVID-19, people can't see their family members in the hospitals. They don't know what's going on there. Well, it's the nursing homes. You don't know what's going on there. People are in prison. Also, they're all situations where there's no oversight. And anytime there's no oversight, corruption will always follow. Right?
Correct. And you have to have somebody who cares, who's worried about Klal Yisrael, about Yidden who are not protected. Is to say, you know what, I'm going to put my neck out there, and I'm going to make sure to notify Yidden that, hey guys, this is a problem, and that's what I did. And
so I think another initiative could be just educating people of what quality looks like, right? If you don't know what quality looks like, you don't know what quality is.
as I said, I'm going to be making more videos, and some of them are going to be more identifying stores, and some of my videos will be more just educating public.
Yeshakar, Wolf, for your work, and we'll be in touch.
No problem. Shukayach for your time, and my pleasure to answer as many questions as I can, and hopefully this helps the public, and of course it brings us closer to the Geula discussion.
Amen. Sure.
Okay.